Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm back with another video. So I want to talk about some thoughts that I've had recently, and I'm going to start off with this idea of genocide as mere gentrification. Now, gentrification is this idea that real estate developers had, where you see a poor neighborhood as a real estate opportunity. So what you do is you create a reason to flatten a neighborhood where poor or working class people live, get rid of the people, trash their properties, just destroy them all with a wrecking ball, and then build new properties that appeal to very rich people. And that's how you get rich. This is called gentrification. And in Gaza, this is a classic example of genocide as gentrification. So you have this piece of real estate which is on the Mediterranean Sea. The real estate agent Donald Trump and his business partner Witkoff and his son-in-law Jared Kushner see Gaza as a great real estate opportunity, and all they need to do is get rid of the people, and then they can develop it and get super filthy rich. That is genocide as gentrification. Another example is Venezuela's trader Machado, who is urging Western investment. She's urging bombing Venezuela in order to destroy the government there, which is trying to uplift the people against all odds and against all the sanctions and hostility that the United States has leveled against it for the last 20 years, including assassinating the leader Chavez. She wants to destroy the government there so that Western investment, aka theft of resources, can go in and get control of Venezuela. And she'll get filthy rich because she facilitated this, and the U.S. corporations that she's inviting in will benefit from all this. And of course, the Venezuelan people will get nothing out of it. That is her plan, and that's the plan of the U.S. government. There's Trump has basically co-opted the MAGA movement. People who thought that there was many people, well-meaning people, who thought that Trump's intentions were good, and he talked about the MAGA movement, Make America Great Again, which was supposed to be a refocusing of U.S. efforts on the American people into Trump's and the U.S. political class's aspiration to America über alles. So people thought Trump is going to, reindustrialize America and bring the jobs back and bring back the standard of living that the U.S. had during the 1950s and 1960s, and he has no intention of doing that at all. So his idea is American über alles, and that is basically the ideology of Teddy Roosevelt in the turn of the century, and William McKinley. These are all U.S. imperialists, and a certain German government that arose during the 1930s, which had this idea of Lebensraum. We need more living space, so they're always expanding, and it doesn't matter how many people they kill in order to get what they want. This is this was not what MAGA was supposed to be all about. But you see, Trump co-opted that. He grifted and took advantage of people's aspirations and refocused it to what we have now. So what we have now, of course, is that after the fall of the Soviet Union, the United States went and they fooled the people of the Soviet Union. They allowed the American corporations and bankers to go in there, strip the resources that were built by the Soviet Union, and they drove the Soviet people and the Russian people into dire poverty. But unfortunately for the U.S. ruling class, there was enough integrity within the Russian soul, you might say, to allow an obscure bureaucrat named Vladimir Putin to go in, and he basically said to the oligarchs, which, by the way, interesting that there's oligarchs in Russia now, and this upstart politician in New York City named Mamdani is also talking about oligarchs, and Bernie saying, what is this thing about there seem to be oligarchs in a lot of different countries? Isn't that's what a coincidence? Interesting. Well, anyway, so so the U.S. Military and political class thought, we're going to get rid of, we're going to take over Russia and strip it of its resources, and we're going to get filthy rich. But they got kicked out. So then they thought, okay, what are we going to do now? Okay, let's use Ukraine, because they did manage to split off Ukraine, which has historically been part of the whole Russian cultural space for literally 1,000 years. And they thought, okay, we'll turn it into an anti-Russia, we'll arm it to the teeth, we'll start a war, a civil war, which will then extend into taking over Russia again. And they're failing now. So they say, okay, well, let's see, we spent about several $100 billion on that. We're far deeper in debt than they were before, and that's really hurting our balance sheet. We're about to go belly up the whole U.S. economy, so what are we going to do now? We gotta find more collateral. We're going to find easier collateral. Russia didn't work. Ukraine's not working. Oh, I know. Let's go into Venezuela, because Venezuela is closer. It's logistically, it's easier. It's an easier win than going all the way over to Europe, and we'll just take over Venezuela. So they hire this lady, Machado, to talk about, freeing Venezuela from the yoke of the government that's actually trying to feed its people, and she's gonna sell all of Venezuela's the gold and the minerals and the oil. We're gonna make Venezuela safe for capitalism again, for U.S. corporations, and that's her plan. And somehow she expects people to believe that is for the benefit of the Venezuelan people. It's got nothing to do with that. So, and then now, but the problem is that the Russians and the Chinese, they have a completely different mindset from Western countries, because going back even to the American Revolution, the Russian Empire, which did not, it has 100+ different nationalities. It got people from Asiatic people and Central Asian people, Islamic people, shamanic people, Buddhist people, and somehow they managed to cobble this country together into first the Soviet Union and then to the Russian Federation. They don't go around slaughtering them the way the U.S. did, or the way that the Australians did, or the British did in India, killing millions of people wherever they went. Russia doesn't operate that way, nor does China. So Russia and China have befriended Venezuela, and they're basically saying to the U.S., we don't really agree with your destroying Venezuela the way you destroyed Yugoslavia and Libya and Syria and a host of other countries. So we're not gonna. What we're going to do is we're going to put some missiles, anti-aircraft missiles in, and anti-ship missiles. And if you try anything stupid, Venezuela has the means to defend itself. So now the United States is saying, well, let's see, maybe this might not be such a good idea. Oh, I know. Let's go to Nigeria, because they don't have all those weapons, and they have a lot of oil. That's great. That's what we'll do. We'll shore up our balance sheets by going after Nigeria. And then Nigeria says, well, this whole thing about, you're killing Christians, that's really not happening. And by the way, if you're really worried about countries killing Christians, maybe you ought to go to Israel and stop them from killing Palestinian Christians. How about that? Well, we don't want to talk about that. Let's just keep on the subject. Let's go to Nigeria. Forget about Palestine. We got our own genocide project going on in Gaza. So let's stick with the topic here. Well, so it's hard to say whether Nigeria will get invaded or not. And then now they're talking about Mexico, which the U.S. has also invaded. Mexico, we stole half of Mexico during the 19th century, so why not go in and steal some more of it, including its minerals and oil and so on and so forth. So this is U.S. policy It's just like so blatant. And I don't know if the American people can even see what's going on here. Um, I want to just mention um, George Carlin, because George Carlin pointed out the racist component of U.S. foreign policy, where he says we're going to bomb people, especially brown people. Now, who's the only country that was white that we bombed, and that was the Germans. And why did we bomb the Germans? Because they have this idea that they want to cut into our action. Bullshit. That's our blankety blank job. So the reason why we got into a battle with Germany in World War II is because Germany was trying to compete with the United States for world hegemony, and that didn't work. And of course, the Japanese had their own ideas about empire, and the U.S. thought, well, we'll get rid of the Japanese, and then we'll take over all of Asia. They even talk about in their documents that the Pacific Ocean is America's ocean. So there's this mindset of constant expansion. It's really quite extraordinary. Now, I want to make a literary connection between this this mindset here, between two quite famous works. One is called Glengarry Glen Ross, and the second is Apocalypse Now. And Glengarry Glen Ross is a play by the playwright David Mamet that won a number of awards, and and then of course Apocalypse Now, which was Francis Ford Coppola's Vietnam epic, and they seem worlds apart. One is set in a cutthroat Chicago real estate office, the other in the jungles of Southeast Asia, but they share a profound literary and thematic connection: the corruption of the American dream and the moral bankruptcy of unchecked ambition. I want to give a tip of the hat to Ask Alice. Ask Alice is the AI version of which you can find in the Yandex browser. So you have the Google browser, you have Bing, you have ChatGPT, you have DeepSeek, which is a Chinese version of AI research, and you have Yandex's version, which is Ask Alice. And the reason why I used it in this particular case is because, you see, the problem with AI is it's based on information. They say, garbage in, garbage out. The problem with ChatGPT is that it's based primarily on Google and based on a Western model. By using a Western model, they have an inherent bias towards Western sources. So you're going to get a biased version of reality, which they will sell to you as truth, when in fact they may leave out significant aspects of the discussion that need to be included. So that's the reason why I was helped in my research with this Ask Alice. And you can check out, if you go to the Yandex browser, you can do some of your own research there, and you'll often get results that are different from Google or other Western-oriented browsers, and against U.S. and Western-oriented AI models. So I'm going to go through the different aspects of this. So there's the perversion of success as a moral imperative. In Glengarry Glen Ross, Mamet dissects the salesman's creed. Success, that is, closing deals, is the sole virtue. Ethics are a luxury. The famous always be closing mantra reduces human interaction to transaction. So this idea of closing, when you're a salesperson, you want to close the deal. That means get the customer to sign on the dotted line, and you'll use any means necessary in order to get them to bend to your will, either through deception or force or manipulation, whatever it might be. So the characters in this play are Roma and Levine, justify lies, theft, and betrayal because winning absolves all. And we see this in the Trump policies. We couldn't defeat Russia. We couldn't defeat Ukraine. Now we're going to go after Venezuela. If we can't get Venezuela, we'll go after Nigeria. If we can't get Nigeria, we'll go after Mexico. He's obsessed with winning, and morality or sincerity or anything that actually includes the well-being of the other party has nothing to do with the transaction. Similarly, Apocalypse Now exposes the military imperial version of this logic. So you have Glengarry Glen Ross, which is in a microcosm of an American city and these unscrupulous real estate guys, and then you have the macro view, which is about this guy Colonel Kurtz's descent into madness, and it mirrors the U.S. mission in Vietnam. The original noble goal, which is democracy promotion in Vietnam, and containment of evil, godless, atheistic communism, metastasizes into a cult of violence. His famous line, this Colonel Kurtz's famous line, the horror, echoes the emptiness behind the rhetoric of progress. So the connection is that both works ask, when success becomes the only metric, what do we lose? The answer is humanity. Secondly, culture as a weapon. Mamet's dialogue is a ballet of manipulation. Salesmen deploy jargon, flattery, and fear to coerce clients. Words don't convey truth, they manufacture consent, to borrow the term from Noam Chomsky and Edward Herman's very famous book, The Manufacturing of Consent. In Apocalypse Now, the language is equally hollow. The U.S. command uses euphemisms such as pacification or collateral damage to sanitize atrocities. Kurtz's monologues twist Enlightenment ideals, horror has a face, into a justification for barbarism. In Vietnam, there was a famous colonel who destroyed a village called Ben Tre, and he said, we had to destroy the village in order to save it. This is how they twist things in their mind. So the connection shows how rhetoric masks moral collapse. Whether selling swampland or a war, the machinery of persuasion erodes reality. The third part, the frontier mentality and manifest destiny. Apocalypse Now is openly a reimagining of the heart of darkness, transporting Conrad's Congo to Vietnam. The Heart of Darkness was a novel that was written by Joseph Conrad, I think the very end of the 19th century, talking about what the atrocities that were going on in the Congo in Africa. And something like 10 million people were killed by the King of Belgium because he had this idea that somehow this tiny little country in Europe somehow has the right to go into Africa and destroy the people there in order to enrich himself. This was this is the one of the genocides that the West has committed. So the U.S. mission echoes manifest destiny, the belief that expansion, geographic, economic, ideological, and even cultural, is both inevitable and righteous. Glengarry Glen Ross mirrors this on a macroscopic scale. The real estate agents treat leads, sales leads, like territory to be conquered. The Glengarry leads, which are prized client lists, are the new frontier, a resource to be seized by any means. The office is a battlefield where survival of the fittest justifies cruelty. So the connection is that both critique the myth of American exceptionalism. Whether in jungles or boardrooms, the drive to dominate becomes a self-consuming virtue. Dehumanization, and the loss of self. In Glengarry, the agents reduce clients to numbers and each other to rivals. Levine's desperation, I'm a salesman, reveals his identity eroded by the system. He's no longer a human being. He's just a salesman. In Apocalypse Now, soldiers become cogs in a machine of death. Willard, who was the agent sent in by the United States to neutralize Colonel Kurtz, who was an agent who had gone rogue, you could say. By destroying Kurtz, he becomes Kurtz himself. So there's a saying, who was it? It was a certain, her name escapes me now, who was the congressman from Oakland, California, after the 9/11 attacks, and she said, by destroying evil, let us not become the evil that we attempt to destroy. That's what we're talking about here. Now, the connection is that ambition, when divorced from ethics, devours the ambitious. The salesman and the soldier both lose their souls to the mission. The ironic hero. Roma, Glengarry, is the charismatic winner, but his victory is Pyrrhic. He survives by embracing the system's immorality. Willard, the hero of Apocalypse Now, survives, but his triumph is hollow. He kills Kurtz, but inherits his nihilism. Neither world offers redemption. The winner is just the last one standing in a wasteland of their own making. This is what we're heading to. Conclusion. Both works are dark parables about American ambition. Glengarry Glen Ross shows the corporate face of this pathology, the dream reduced to a grift. And Apocalypse Now shows the imperial face, the dream exported as violence. Together, they form a dual face of how ideals become ideologies and ideologies become atrocities. This is a key theme in all of my work, that there's a psychological and even spiritual component that lies at the root of our problems. And when you have a poison root, you create a poison plant. That poison plant bears poison fruit. And that is our current situation. I think even what the Bible says, the fathers have planted bitter grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. That's what we're talking about here. So whether in a dingy office or a burning jungle, the warning is the same. When the ends justify the means, there are no ends, only means. So what is the solution to this problem? As I see it, the solution to this problem is that we need to have a complete, what Nietzsche called a revaluation of values. Nietzsche was a 19th century, in the 19th century German philosopher, who I studied in the university, and he talked about the idea of going beyond good and evil and in revaluation of values. He saw that Western civilization was in a state of crisis. We're talking about, going back to like 1880 or so. And he's saying we need to rethink how we think about what are we doing, and we need to reevaluate our values. The values that Western civilization has descended into is domination, control, a theft of other people's resources, insincerity, anything we can do to dominate other countries. You either do it our way or we destroy you. And what we need to do, what we need as a civilization, Western civilization, what it needs to do is to completely change our attitude from one of domination and control into one of universal benevolence. So how can we give up this idea of Western civilization as somehow superior in every way, which gives us the right to do whatever we want, and instead look at the rest of the planet as our brothers and sisters, all beings, all the animals and plants and everything, all of creation, as sacred and something that we want to nurture and protect instead of exploit. That's what we need to do. So that's basically what I want to say in this video. We're seeing all of these really quite negative events that are taking place, and I'm trying to make a connection between the micro, whereas Donald Trump's real estate, he grew up as a real estate shyster, and now he's going global with it. That is the nature of the problem that we have. And so what are we going to do about that? Well, we need to change our own mindset and recognize it's not just Trump is the problem, because the Democrats have been equally complicit in this. Remember, Harry Truman dropped atomic bombs on people. He was a Democrat. He initiated the Korean War. He was a Democrat. Lyndon Johnson, ramped up the Vietnam War. He was a Democrat. So, and of course, George Bush was George Bush the first was a Republican, but Bill Clinton, attacked Iraq, and his Secretary of State said that having 500,000 children in Iraq die because of bad water and not enough food and medicine is a price worth paying. So both parties are completely complicit in all this, and of course we see that lately in both Palestine and in Ukraine. So that is our challenge. We need to we have to come to grips with this really toxic mindset and change how we think about our relationship with the rest of the planet. So that's basically what I want to say here. And again, if you would be kind enough to subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends. You can make a donation through Buy Me a Coffee or through PayPal, and you can, as I say, you can share it, and also you can go to my website where you can go to it's on Amazon, where you can get my information billboard T-shirt, so that when you meet people, you can maybe strike up a conversation. Yesterday, I took a hike to it's a forest temple in Thailand, in Chiang Mai. You have to go up this trail, and I go to the very top of the where this it's not. I went to the very, very top of the mountain. It was like a 6-kilometer thing, and I was really wasted by the time I got to the top. But midway, there's this temple called Wat, Temple Palat, which is in the forest, and I talked with a monk there, and he noticed my T-shirt, and then some people stopped me and they said, "Oh, that's an interesting T-shirt." They said, "Where'd you get it?" I said, "I made this T-shirt." So if you think that people should question everything, then you can buy my T-shirt. Not that I'm going to make any money off it. I think I'm lucky to make $4 off of it, something like that. But you make more money. Unfortunately, you're making more money for Amazon than you are for me. I'll try to find other websites that you can buy it from. But for now, this is not a for-profit thing. It's just a way to spread information and spread the key thing is to spread awareness, to get people to question everything, to get people to aspire to something better, that we are not as damned as we seem to be, that there's a way out of this. We simply have to change how we think about things. So again, thank you very much for listening to my little rant here, and I hope you found it useful. Please like and comment on it, and thank you again for listening, and I'll see you next time.